Evening everyone, just an update on the F17 project. I've just been working on the front end and just trying to get a few things wrapped up. The front control arms are basically done. They need a bit of finishing, like finishing off a couple of little welds and plugs. And we've just been working tonight on doing the rocker arms. So we've done quite a few different prints thanks to my good mate Sean at S&M Engineering. Does a lot of design work and everything. We've been doing all the FEA modelling on the control arms to make sure this car can all be street legal at the end of it. You can see we're using all our billet suspension tabs that we do, the 4140. They're all notched in. Suspension is mostly all mocked up. I've got all the geometry correct and everything now. There's the rocker up there. We have done about 4 different rockers now to try and get it. So the pushrod comes off up there, up into the rocker. This plate obviously won't be there in the end. That's just a mock-up so I can reference all my holes and everything. So this will have a 4140 stub, goes off into that bearing. The bearing's in single shear, but we've FEA modelled that as well. It's got a really high strength to it anyway. So I was originally just going to put a straight bar through here with a bit of a kick because it needs to have a little bit of clearance down here for the actual spring, because the spring on this is a 90mm spring, so a 3.5-inch spring. But instead I've decided to actually make this sort of come down. I'm going to notch this pipe in halfway, and then the other one's going to come down, notch into that. Following that, it'll have one tube from there down to this support bar, and then off there it'll actually V out in a small one. It's got an oil cooler that ends up going on the front here, so you don't see this lower half section, but you do see this in the rockers. So once this is actually going down into a V, I'm going to have another V coming up and actually swooping in there, and I'm going to have the bump stop. So actually when the rocker goes actually right up like that, there will be a bump stop that'll actually hit up on the top, but it's going to be facing on a 45 and a 45, the bump stops. We've got it with a C101 or a C102 coilover, which has got 3 inches worth of travel here. And that nets us, because the arms are actually so long in this thing, that nets us about 5 inches of compression and about 5 inches of droop. So we've got ample amount of travel. A car like this, I don't think you'd ever really see any of that, but the car will basically bottom out on the floor pan. It's actually set, everything's set at 100mm, so ground clearance. But we're getting there. So again, there's another way that we've used our little billet 4140 tabs. We do sell these if anybody actually is after any, and they do come in just a square block. They actually come back, so they're able to cut and shape and everything. You can see what we've done tonight. I've just notched them. They're a very, very handy little bracket we've made. They've come in handy for so many things on this car already. Rear shock mounts, front, yeah, they're a lot of different options for them. And we've got one other cool little product that we've just made. These are all 4140, and we've actually made an eccentric high misalignment joint. These go into a 3/4 heim joint, and then yeah, they do replace. They're obviously quite thin. They net you about another 20 degrees worth of angle on a factory heim joint. And the advantage and why I did make these, which I couldn't find anything on the market, we actually run these in the control arm on the back one, as you can see there. and you can actually spin that, and it gets you about 7mm, something like that. So basically with this car now, if I want to do any of my caster adjustment, this has got a solid one up in the front there, and the eccentric one there. I also did try an eccentric one up the front there as well, and if you actually have the two, you put your flat spanner in, you actually turn both of them at once, and it actually pulls this whole arm, back, and that actually gives you an increase in caster from about 6 degrees to nearly 11 degrees, so it was quite substantial. So I'm really wrapped with how these come out. I couldn't find anything on the market. I believe it's probably the first of it, so I'm sure I'm going to put this out and then someone's going to copy it, but I think we are the first to actually do it and come up with the idea of it. We've also made a whole heap of just smaller 4140 high misalignment joints. It's hard to see because the phone won't actually focus. But these just go into your typical home joint, like you can see there. So instead of just running a spacer and everything like that, like I say, these get about another 20 degrees, so it's quite a substantial amount more travel. And the benefit of them, also the other benefit is when you've got a fixed control arm like this at 3 points, if you ever actually want to adjust this arm, you go and move this, because that actually throws out the distance because they're actually in a triangle. You'll always find it hard to actually be able to put your bolts back in. So it actually nets you a lot more adjustability in your control arm, and you can always move, you can wind your home joint out to actually increase caster or decrease it, or if you want to get more camber or less. I can actually do camber on this end up here as we're running a 3/4 home joint there. But when you do actually adjust it and wind this out, you can always find your hole. So you can move this end and you can literally turn that in the hole and you'll always find a spot for it to go back in. So it's a really handy little thing. I suppose this is a product that I couldn't find anywhere on the market, so I designed it up, and now we've made up a heap of them. And again, it'll be really handy for a lot of guys. Look, it's a very specific application. If you're doing this sort of thing or fabricating a control arm into a V, it's always been an issue of trying to actually get everything back in spot. Another option for these is if you have a wishbone track locator in the rear. A lot of the time when you do adjust them and you actually need to get the center of your diff where it's mounted on your wishbone and they're a V, sometimes you have to wind one home joint out and decrease one and wind one out to actually move your wishbone over to center your diff in your car. With these spacers, it makes it so much easier because you can actually even loosen off your bolts, put your flat spanner in, move it, and you'll actually move your wishbone itself just within the misalignment joint. So they are for sale if anybody's interested in any of the spacers. And like I say, it's just a bit of an update. Probably a boring video for some, but some might be interested. The car's a mess inside at the moment, but we've put a new floor in it and actually raised it, the floor. But everything's kind of in. There's a few more diagonals I've got to put through the floor there, and then onto sheeting. And I get to actually start to aluminium clad the whole lower half of the monocoque. It's actually all going to be sheeted and riveted inside and out. It's going to be fire blanketed in the side and everything for the heat. This car is going to be running like Formula 1 style air pods on the side with side mounted radiators. Can actually go right along there. So they will be functional radiators, as this car, it's hard to actually see without seeing it in real life to actually realise how small this thing is. But it's got a very wide footprint. It's got about 2 meters 50. So You're going to be pretty wide once it's got the front on. And they are a 325 on the front and they're a 395 on the rear. So it's going to have a massive footprint. It'll be a pretty beast looking car when it's done. We're running a Sean's custom manifold, one of their sheet metal ones. I'm not super into all the billet tops. It's all the CNC runners. They're all in sheet metal. And then twin 75mm turbos down the back. And then the intake pipe, like some of you that do follow what I do. Chris Lamaris's car, the twin turbo 64 Pro Falcon. This is a similar sort of setup. I'm going to run the charge pipe actually along the top of the gearbox. Up there. And then the whole back's all intercooler. It's actually going to have a bit of a roof scoop into the back part of the roof. And it'll have some side knacker ducts. Diff's out at the moment. We've put some solid 4140 slugs through the chassis there that picks up the top arm. They are in single shear, those ones. It's going to be more like a radial sort of setup. So slightly shorter top arm, longer rear, lower, sorry. These ones there, they're getting plates made at the moment. This is just like a mock-up, but the lower plates actually all mount in there in double shear. I'm going to put some cage connectors in here because I've actually made a complete chromoly subframe that goes right around the car underneath. This is just so you can actually drop the diff out in the car. There's going to be a lot going on. 275mm turbos there, and maybe I'll save it for another video, but I've got a lovely wrapped up 427 Dart with all the fruit CNC ported Higgins heads. Everything's going to be going into this, so this thing's going to make a hell of a lot of power if I want it to. Not that I'm actually going to need it, but it's probably be well capable of 2000 horsepower. So I hope everyone enjoyed this and likes the build. If you can, I'll put this on my YouTube. If you can, everybody help and sort of share it around and get people to sort of follow our page and follow the build and like and subscribe on it. That'd be fantastic. And I'm trying to get into this car pretty heavy now, as quick as I can. I want to get it rolling. I'm attempting to have this thing rolling in the next couple of weeks. So as soon as I've got it rolling, I'll be wrapped. All right, enjoy.